Florida 24 Network starts now.
I'm Jennifer Delacruz with the Minute, Florida's top stories in 60 seconds. In less than a half hour, 5 Republican candidates will take the stage behind me. The third Republican presidential primary debate takes place right here in Florida. State leaders say at least 2 more flights are in the works after more than 270 Americans stranded in Israel landed safely back in Florida on Sunday. Capitol reporter For Saunders has the details on what state authorities call the toughest mission they've ever done. To say this shakes up the political world would be an understatement. So when is a hearing expected? And if this goes to trial, what would that process look like? It is rivalry weekend in Tallahassee. Florida State will square off against University of Miami with a lot on the line. And I, of course, will be rooting for my alma mater, Go Noles. Katie was mentioning a little bit about power outages in that area. We're tracking now 210,000 outages being reported by the state. That just updated in just the past couple of minutes since I've been watching this. So Trump indictments aside, what does DeSantis need to do to galvanize more people behind him and change the dynamic here? With Thanksgiving next week, many people in the Sunshine State are getting ready for holiday travel, and you don't want to be stuck in something that looks like that. Even I grew up coming to this farm as a kid, but in a world post-COVID, farms like this all over Florida are facing challenges like never before. At this point, not much has changed for you, the taxpayer. But when we reached out to Disney earlier this week for comment on all of this, taxes is exactly what they chose to highlight. Yeah, settling in here a little bit tired.
In the morning anyway.
I will need a nap later, but yes, new hours for me. Happy to be here though with you guys. More migrants are making the dangerous journey, hoping to reach Florida's shores and search for a better life. Right now, the state is looking into how this emergency test alert mistakenly got sent to millions of Floridians very early Thursday morning. Tensions are high. Just go outside and please be kind to each other. We need more of that right now. I'm Jennifer Delacruz, making Florida news now. A deadly mass shooting in Maine leads to an urgent manhunt and local communities on edge.
Nerves are rattled right now. Keeping an eye on the woods.
The timeline of events unfolding in a bowling alley and a restaurant, killing at least 18 people and leaving others hurt. The nightmarish scene in a rural part of Maine as the nation deals with the 36th mass shooting of 2023. Cargo planes carrying more than toiletries. Florida sends medical supplies, kids' toys, and weapons to Israel. The state didn't purchase the items. A look at the governor's reasoning as others remind DeSantis he's not president yet. A year after Ian, yet homeowners still dealing with issues, many in dire need of a roof.
So the roof is usually the first thing that needs to be done after the muck out.
The organization stepping in to help others. The manhunt continues for a man accused of killing at least 18 people in Maine. The Coast Guard was deployed by sea and air to look for him. Calls came in Wednesday night after shots were fired inside a bowling alley and a bar in the small town of Lewiston.
An active shooter incident, multiple people down. Have PD on scene, but the suspect is still at large.
The FBI, Maine State Patrol, and local police are looking for this man, Robert Card. His family is urging him to surrender. They say Card had a manic belief people were saying negative things about him before the shooting. His family adds they alerted police and military officials when they grew concerned about his mental health. The Maine State Police say Card is facing at least 8 counts of murder. A former colleague of his in the Army Reserve Unit says Card was a skilled marksman, outdoorsman, and among the best shooters. Officials say Card was committed to a mental health facility for 2 weeks over the summer. Law enforcement were seen in tactical gear roaming the streets Thursday. There are shelter-in-place orders for 3 different towns. Residents say they are rattled and are keeping an eye on the woods in their backyards. We are also getting a look at the timeline of events from Wednesday night's shooting. According to the state police department, calls first came in of a reported shooting at a bowling alley at 6:56. Then, 12 minutes later, at 7:08, multiple calls of another shooting, this time at a bar and grill.
Multiple victims. I need every unit you can find.
So we had 2 separate active shooter incidents. First one will be at Spare Time. Second one, Smingy's. That's where all the ASO units are.
As you can see, the map shows the distance between the two is about 4 miles. Google Maps says it would take about 12 minutes to drive from the bowling alley to the bar. Then, at 9:56 at night, officers located the suspected shooter's car. It was found at a boat launch dock 13 miles away. The horrific scene playing out in the darkness of the night. Witnesses say it was a blur to them. Inside the bowling alley, kids were playing, some telling their mom, quote, "This is a scary world we live in, Mom." Others described the moments they tried to hide from the gunfire.
And as soon as I turned and saw it was not a balloon, he was holding a weapon, I just booked it down the lane, and I slid basically into where the pins are and climbed up in the machine and was on top of the machines for about 10 minutes until the cops got there.
Brandon says he was putting on his bowling shoes when the shooting started. At the bar, the American Deaf Cornhole Organization was hosting an event with several members in attendance. Coming up in the next half hour, we look at the recent mass shootings in Florida and the impacts red flag laws have had. Following these shootings, President Joe Biden ordered that flags be lowered to half staff. For more on the response out of Washington, D.C., let's bring in Scripps News congressional reporter Stephanie Liebergen. Stephanie, what kind of initial reaction are you seeing from the Hill and the White House?
Hey, Jen.
We are continuing to follow new developments out of Maine, and we'll bring them to you here as we get them on Florida 24 Network. Florida has been shipping weapons, ammo, and body armor to Israel. Capitol reporter For Saunders is finding out more details about what's in the state-funded cargo runs to the war-torn nation. A Treasure Coast community is tackling traffic and growth. Those are two of the biggest issues plaguing many neighborhoods, including Vero Beach's Main Street. There's a plan to reduce the number of traffic lanes that at the same time would also add an additional 51 parking spots. An engineering firm claims reducing the number of lanes would add 22 to 30 seconds to a driver's commute. Some of the business owners believe this is a good idea, while others feel it will be an issue.
To shrink it down to 2 lanes, to bring more people down here, to put parking that's 4 blocks away, we have public parking closer that nobody uses.
Of keeping traffic flowing, dealing with safety and aesthetics.
A final decision on the plan has to be made soon so the Florida Department of Transportation can plan for the future project. There's another public hearing in November before the City Council weighs in at the end of the year. Still ahead, we've brought you reporting from around our state about how different Florida cities are tackling homelessness. Today, we focus on Jacksonville and the creative idea to help people find homes.
All I saw was a man holding an assault rifle shooting through the door.
Some call it an epidemic.
1 in 5 people has lost a family member to gun violence.
Gun violence in the U.S. already claiming more than 32,000 lives in 2023, according to the Gun Violence Archive. President Joe Biden vowing to change that.
We all want our kids to have the freedom to learn how to read and write in school instead of duck and cover, for God's sake.
Flanked by Representative Maxwell Frost from Florida, in September, the White House launched its first ever Office of Gun Violence Prevention. Fred Guttenberg was there in D.C. to see it happen.
I can't ever remove the reality of why I'm there, which was Jamie, and the fact that she was killed.
14-year-old Jamie Guttenberg, one of 17 innocent lives gunned down at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in 2018. Since then, her father, Fred, has dedicated his life to stopping senseless tragedy fueled by firearms.
I have a dream of ending gun violence in Florida and in America.
He's authored books like Find the Helpers and American Carnage, shattering the myths that fuel gun violence, working to make sure no other parent is touched by his pain.
Since my daughter was killed 5 years ago, I've been fighting to do something about gun violence. And this office was a priority.
President Biden says the Office of Gun Violence Prevention has clear goals. Build on the bipartisan Safer Communities Act, which expanded red flag laws and improved mental health services in schools. The office is set to coordinate financial and mental health support for communities impacted by gun violence, identify new executive actions, and expand partnerships at the state and local levels. You posted on social media that there was a moment there with you and President Biden, and you said everyone else is trying to engage with him. He's the president, but he was speaking directly to me and he knew exactly who Jamie was. What did that moment mean to you?
This president will never forget why it is that he ran for office and who he serves.
The Biden-Harris administration has also taken executive actions to keep repeat shooters off the streets and hold gun dealers accountable. In August, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms proposed a rule requiring more dealers to run background checks. Guttenberg urging others to take note.
We're doing everything we can to finally turn the curve on gun violence.
But gun reform in this country is one of the most controversial topics there is. In July, Florida became a permitless carry state, allowing legal Florida gun owners to carry a concealed gun without a permit.
We are taking care of our right to bear arms.
And just days after the Office of Gun Violence Prevention was announced, a Republican senator from North Carolina introduced a bill to unravel some of its goals, notably preventing the President and Secretary of Health and Human Services from declaring a public health emergency to impose gun control. That legislation is endorsed by gun owners of America. Is this something that this office is kind of nice in theory? I mean, I know it's going to be an uphill battle, as you know, to get meaningful gun reform passed in this country, passed through Congress. Is this office going to go far enough, or do we need to see more done here?
No, this office, it's not nice in theory, it's nice in fact.
Florida 24 Network, discovering all of Florida